Hi, I'm Scott McLean from transmusicmastery.com, and in this video I'm going to show you how to program the RAMsterdam ARP lead on Sylenth1, and this was the lead patch that was originally programmed by Adam Sabo for the Zebra 2 synthesizer. So this is the patch that we're going to try to create on Sylenth1. And I'm going to follow the same technique that I have in the other videos for reproducing this patch. So let me go ahead and disable each module. And so this is what Oscillator 1 sounds like for this patch. Okay, so now let's try to reproduce that with Sylenth1. So let me move this out of the way for a moment. I'm just going to hold the C note down. So I have the init patch on Sylenth1. So let's take a look at Oscillator 1. We have 11 voices, detuned, global tunings at -12, and slight increase in volume, and width is at its maximum width. So let's go ahead and set that up here. Sylenth1 voices go up to 8, so I'm going to increase them all the way up and then detune those voices. Before I do that, bring octave down 1. Okay, sounds pretty close. I ended up inverting the waveform and making sure that that retrig was disabled. So now I want to configure the envelope, the amplitude envelope, so let's look at that. Zero attack, decay is at 26, sustain 84, so there's a little difference between its maximum volume and the volume that it sustains at, and then release is about the same level as decay. So let's go ahead and set that up in Sylenth1. Okay, that sounds pretty close, so I'm going to leave that as it is. Next, let's add Oscillator 2. So that has 11 voices detuned, and both of these, again, are saw waves. No effects, and volume is lower than Oscillator 1, but width is wide. It's set for maximum, and look at the detune amount. It's at 50, which is the maximum value on Zebra 2. So let's go ahead and set that up in Sylenth1. So I'm going to set the wave type on Oscillator A2 to saw wave, increase the voices to 8, and then apply detuning. And I need to bring the octave, set that to -1. Sounds very similar to me, so I'm going to go ahead and move to the next oscillator. So enable OSC3. That uses 11 voices as well and maximum detuning, and this is up 1 octave. No effects, and the mixer volume is lower, but the width is at 100. So let's take a look at that. Okay, that's pretty close. And let me actually disable this retrig and invert the waveform as well. And for now, let's go back to part A and copy the amp envelope A settings and set amp envelope B the same. And then now let's go ahead and add oscillator 4, which is a quad tuned down 1 octave with slight detuning and just barely there. So let's see what effect this is having on the Zebra 2 patch. So you get just a hint of some low-end frequencies in that patch when oscillator 4 is enabled. So let's go ahead and use oscillator B2 to achieve that in Sylenth1. So we're going to want that down 2 octaves. Okay, that's pretty close. And the next thing we need to do is enable the noise. Now this presents a problem because we've used all of the oscillators available in Sylenth1 to set up the saw waveforms, and we don't have a separate noise generator. Sylenth1 does not have a separate noise generator. So what I'm going to try to do is just use that, achieve that by giving a bump on the EQ to the high end. So let's see if I can do that. Okay, the noise sounds similar. There seems to be more detuning in the Zebra 2, so I'm going to look at that real quick. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that and just go forward with this. So I think it's pretty close. You can hear differences, but it's similar character stylistically, so let's go with it. Now, if I go to the next element, that's the filter, VCF1, and we've got LP mid-drive, cutoff, resonance, envelope 2, key follow is 0, drive is 0. So really all we need to do is modulate the cutoff frequency with envelope 2 and give it some resonance. So let's try to set that up, see what kind of effect this is having. I think in order to set the filter up, I'm going to have to lower the cutoff frequency somewhat. So let's bring it down. And now I'll match that with Sylenth1. In fact, we want to have part B routed into filter A as well. So we'll set this to AB. And then we will set the input select to the dotted lines, which disconnects oscillator B from filter B. Okay, that sounds pretty close. So now let's add some modulation to filter cutoff A. And what we're trying to emulate is that initial filter sweep on this note. We need to lower the sustain level some. This one seems to have a shorter decay, so let's increase that. Okay, that's pretty close, so let's leave it like that, and then bring up the release to match the decay. Okay, next what we want to do, that's it for the sound generation. Now let's go to global, let's do EQ. Now we've already used EQ for bringing out some of that noise, so let's see what effect this EQ is having on the Zebra 2 sound. Let me return the cutoff frequency to its maximum value. And then let's compare that to Sylenth1. Okay, so we want to achieve a similar sound with this EQ and see what kind of effect we can achieve. When you're doing this exercise, you really want to match the volume level so that you can make sure you're getting proper comparison. You really need to be comparing two sounds at the same volume level to be able to discern the differences. I think that's about as close as I can get it with this EQ. Now, a workaround would be to add an EQ out here. So let me see if we disable this EQ and I go ahead and add an EQ 8 from Ableton. In fact, I need to put that on the Sylenth1 track. So now if I I'm just going to move this out of the way. And I'll put a similar curve in that we have already here in the RAMsterdam ARP lead, but I will try to match what's happening in Zebra 2, the output of Zebra 2. So let's listen to that. Seems to be more bass frequency present in Zebra 2. Let's see if there's any differences on the spectrum analyzer. So Zebra 2 is this one, and Sylenth1 is this one here. Yeah, right around 131 there's a peak, 131 hertz. So let me see if I can accentuate that with the EQ. It's fairly close, but there is more of a mid-range character to the Zebra 2 sound than the Sylenth1. So a lot of that has to do with the amount of voices. We've got 11 on oscillators 1, 2, and 3, and the detuning amount. So those interferences end up with a harsher, fatter, combined to give a harsher, fatter sound, I think. And then also that noise being present in the signal as well. I've had to compensate for that using EQ, which here I've kind of lifted all of the higher frequencies here quite a bit. So, you know, these are some of the challenges that you deal with when you're looking at trying to create the same exact patch on several different synthesizers. So let's listen to the overall patch as it sounds now with the sequence. Okay, not bad. It's got the same type of feel to it. Let's listen to Zebra 2. Okay, sounds brighter, sounds harsher. The reasons for that, if we look at oscillator 1, we're using crisp, so the Zebra 2 oscillators are all set to crisp, except for 4. But what this does is this actually adds those higher harmonics that we just don't see or hear the same type of higher harmonics present in the Sylenth1 waveform. So that's part of the reason. And that's even with this EQ setting here. So let's listen to that again. Now I could cut some of this out. Let me try to do that. Okay, that's pretty good. There's kind of a sweet spot in here where those frequencies are more pronounced, and I think that's coming closer to the effect that we're getting from Zebra 2. So next, what we'll do is go ahead and set delay. And again, this is a quarter, but the ratio 1 is 50. So sync 1 ends up being 1/8 with mix at 34 and feedback 4750. So let's take a look at this on Sylenth1 by enabling the delay. Okay, and now we can enable the reverb. And this has wet at 3650, dry 100. Fairly large reverb, so let's go ahead and set that up. So this damp, the higher the damp is, the warmer the reverb sounds. Looks like I need to increase the level a bit on Sylenth1, and then that's probably all we need to do. So let me just fine tune that level. Okay, that's about as close as I can get it, and I think I just want to demonstrate with and without this EQ. So if I turn this EQ off, we play through it. And then with the internal EQ on, and that's about as close as I can get it. So that demonstrates the importance of EQ in getting the right sound. So we can come closer, I think, if we disable this EQ and we enable the EQ8 that I have set here. Okay, I just wanted to point out that there is a mistake in the patch that I've created for this video thus far, and turns out that part B, oscillator B2 here, I have a sine wave specified, a 4-voice sine wave with retrig enabled. And if we look at the Zebra 2 synth, oscillator 4 is a saw wave, quad, tuned down 1 octave, and global tuning is down 1 octave as well. So it's 2 octaves down, and it's at maximum width, but very little volume. And the function of oscillator 4 is to add some low end, some lower harmonics to the patch. So let's actually just listen to the Zebra 2 patch without any of the effects. filter the noise, and let's just see what effect oscillator 4 is having on the patch. Okay, so it helps add a little bit of some low end to the patch. Now, if we look back at the Sylenth1, and if I just solo what this particular oscillator sounds like right now, and because I have the oscillator B disconnected from the filter, I need to route it through the filter, and then now we'll be able to hear oscillator B2, and I'll go ahead and turn down the volume on B1. Let's just remember that, actually I'll just set the voices to 0. And so now we'll only be hearing oscillator B2. Okay, that's a completely different sound than what's coming out of oscillator 4 on Zebra 2. But let's see what kind of difference this really makes. So let's go ahead and I'm going to take this track. First I'm going to return voices to 8 and disconnect B and then unsolo. So now we hear the whole thing. Let me just check that. Okay, so that sounds like what we originally created. So let me duplicate this track, and I'm going to rename it to Sylenth1-B. So this B version, if I solo it, what I'm going to do is change this to a saw wave, enable the invert switch, and disable the retrig switch, and then we'll compare both of these sounds to one another. So first, let me go through and make the correction. Okay, so now I'm going to solo just oscillator B2. So let me solo this, route oscillator part B through the filter, but it'll bypass the filter, and then set the voices to 0 on oscillator B1. And so now I'll listen to it. Okay, again, that's a lot different than the version that we have over here. So now let's bring all of it back in and just compare these two versions to one another. That difference in oscillator B2 is causing the Sylenth1 on track 2 here. I'll just rename this to A. So Sylenth1-A. So the A version sounds, it has some bottom end to it, sounds warmer. The B version sounds thinner and brighter due to this oscillator B2 being in place. Now, we could make EQ adjustments and that type of thing to get it to match closer to what the Zebra 2 sound is like. But let's just compare this version, Sylenth1-B, to the Zebra 2, just to see how it sounds when I compare the two together. So there are still differences, and if I compare Sylenth1-A to the Zebra 2, To my ear, Sylenth1 right now actually sounds closer to the Zebra 2 version than Sylenth1B. And what I'm going to do now is try to have Sylenth1B match Zebra 2 after making this oscillator B2 change. Alright, so the next step after getting all the oscillators and the filter set up was to set up the delay, reverb, and the EQ setting actually. So let's go to Zebra 2 and disable the reverb and delay. And this is 1A, so I'm going to close that and move 1B out of the way. So for the EQ, I'm going to duplicate this in case I want to return back to it. In fact, let me delete it because this is 1A, so it has its own EQ on that track. So Sylenth1B, I'm just going to go through and reset the EQ curve roughly here. And just start comparing track 3, Sylenth1B, to Zebra 2 and make some EQ adjustments. That sounds almost identical. So next, let's bring back the delay and reverb and see how they compare now. I think this version sounds very close to the Zebra 2 version. So now let's compare this version to the originals, well, the version that I originally came up with, Sylenth1A, that has the sine wave and oscillator B2. So you can take your pick at which one you think sounds the best, I guess. And that's really it. So that takes care of the correction to the RAMsterdam ARP lead on Sylenth1. I'll see you in the next video.